Have you ever experienced needing to pay for a unexpected medical bill, maybe a car repair, house repair, or even just a bill came out of your account randomly and you weren't properly prepared for it? Today, I just want to lay out the main benefits of an emergency fund and how to properly structure an emergency fund and create an emergency fund. It is safe to assume that we all have had a unexpected expense occur and it put us in a tough situation. Personally, for me, it was a transmission. My transmission burnt out, and luckily at that point, I was prepared for it. But I've been in situations where I wasn't, and I had to turn it to a credit card, and it set me back. The three main topics I want to discuss today is surrounded by an acronym that I created, which is WWHWW. What is an emergency fund? Why do I need an emergency fund? How much should I save in an emergency fund? When should I use it? And where should you keep it? My main point one, an emergency fund is simply money that you have put aside for a rainy day. Think of it like an insurance policy, right? Uh, we don't use it all the time, but when we do need it, it definitely works and it helps. Um, when you make a budget each month, you're planning for unexpected expenses that you know are coming out each month. But when you create an emergency fund, you're planning for expenses that aren't expected. Um, think of it as something that you can just fall back on when times get tough. Have cash on hand that you can access easy and quickly to mitigate risk and urge to go into debt, because honestly, debt is like throwing salt on that wound, right? You already weren't expecting to use to spend that money, right? But then once you take out debt and you're starting to accrue interest, then it's first prolonging when that bill is finally going to get paid off, and it's also adding money on top of what you're already paying. So it's like, I mean, sometimes you might have to pay for it twice, and I think that would suck. I mean, that's why cash is king, like Dave Ramsey said, right? There's a quote by Dave Ramsey: "Nothing happens without focus. Don't try to do everything at once. Take a step at a time." So if you don't create your emergency fund right the first time, and it takes you a while to understand the concepts behind it, just take your time, right? You don't want to lose focus. You want to have a written out game plan and get it done right. These studies provide clear data on why having emergency funds should be necessary for each household. Um, like Dave Ramsey said, cash is king. Now that we've covered what an emergency fund is, I'm sure you're asking, well, how should I save for mine? Um, what are what really qualifies as an emergency? You don't want to just be taking out money that wasn't really for an emergency fund. It's not a savings like a take and give. This is something that you want strictly for when emergencies happen, because of course they're gonna happen at one point. My main point too is there are two types of emergency funds. There is a starter emergency fund, which is $1,000, and then the next step will be to pay off debt, and then the third step, which is coming from the Baby Steps by Dave Ramsey, will be the second type of emergency fund, which is a fully funded emergency fund and it is 3 to 6 months of expenses, so that when like I said, the job loss or a medical bill, you have that money to fall back on. The most common applied liquidity formula is liquid slash assets, minimum monthly fixed plus monthly variable expenses. And this is a study from Lython et al. From the library. Start by tracking your bank account first. See where you're spending your money monthly and then estimate from there. That's kind of like a simple formula to how to honestly make it easier and digestible, is already track what you're already spending and then multiply that. The average monthly American range is 4,000 for singles and up to 8,600 for a family of four. And this is studies by Rachel Cruz. A study documented by Bai and Matalo concluded that the ability to save was more important than documenting the need to save, which is explaining emergency fund holdings. And what I took from that is documenting it isn't truly the full plan. You have to have action behind it, right? I'm a Christian, and one of the scriptures I truly turn to a lot is faith without actions is dead. And that's really what I took from it, is you have to have actions behind it. You can't just document it. You have to do it. Those numbers cover everything from streaming services, gym memberships, and eating, etc. That's kind of how you want to keep all of those things in mind when you're creating your emergency fund. Also, if times do get tough and you do lose that job, tighten it up, right? You don't need those streaming services. I mean, the gym membership, I like to hit the gym, but you can also do push-ups at home. I mean, just try to tighten up if someone in that family does lose their job. The 4 walls are the main things that you need to be focusing on is food, utility, shelter, and transportation. This is also posted by Rachel Cruz. A budget helps you find the accurate amount you should be saving for in a fully funded emergency fund, right? It helps you through the tough times when it is time to cut out those unnecessary expenses. You have everything already tracked. Now that we know about how and why you should have it, where do you need to keep all the money? A famous quote by Dave Ramsey is, "You've got to tell your money what to do or it will leave," right? Which means you have to have your money, have every dime tracked. You don't want to have money leaving and you don't know where it's going, right? Make sure that you're telling your money where to go, and it's not telling you where it needs to go. My main point 3 is make sure your emergency fund is easy to get to, but not easy enough to where it's that take and go fund. You want it to where you have the discipline to have it in a savings account, maybe a money market account, or an online account which is accruing high interest, like a high yield savings account. The key is security and accessibility. You don't want to have a hassle when the doctor bill comes up and you have to pay, or the mechanic You need to pay that mechanic bill right now. You don't want to have it locked up in a shoebox or under your bed frame. I mean, you have to have it accessible. Um, Another quote by Dave Ramsey is money is 80% behavior and 20% head knowledge, right? Which means it's all about the discipline. It's not about everything that you know. It's about what do you do? What are your actions? I hope I was able to give you a clear understanding about an emergency fund and the importance of why I believe every household should have an emergency fund. We've covered WWHWW. What is an emergency fund? Why do I need an emergency fund? How much should you save in your emergency fund? When should you use it? And where should you keep it? So next time you're experiencing a car repair, home repair, unexpected medical bill, or even a job loss, I hope that you have these steps to back you up and give you that peace and that sanity to where this is an effortless situation. A it's just a unexpected expense, and hey, I have the money for it.